Evening, everyone, and welcome to the Interfaith Conference's webinar tonight, which is going to be on uh, fasting, faith, and fulfillment. We have a panel of seven speakers tonight, and we are very excited. We think there's going to be some variety here and some similarities as well. I would note, however, that as JC said, that we are going to monitor the chat for your questions as we go through it. But I would also, uh, if there is time, there will be a brief panel discussion as well, where we might compare and contrast what we have learned for the evening. And I would also like to pay special thanks to the Interfaith Conferences Committee for Interfaith Understanding, which did the planning and helped put this program together as well. Tonight's topic for interfaith discussion is on fasting, and they're all different kinds of fasting, and we're going to explore that. I've noted with interest over the last 10 years that there's actually been a lot of publication in the scientific area about the field of intermittent fasting. Several studies have found that people can dramatically improve their blood sugar by eating during a shorter daily window. There's also benefits from intermittent fasting in other studies that have looked at how intermittent fasting and meal timing may benefit aspects of health, including weight loss, blood sugar, as I mentioned before, blood pressure, aging, and even cancer prognosis. Tonight, we are not going to be discussing any of those things. However, although I'm sure the religious scholars might debate the wisdom of fasting in light of recent scientific advances, our goal tonight is going to be to describe the fasting tradition and associated religious benefits, perhaps, or societal benefits as a result of those traditions. I am going to begin my presentation. I'm going to be going first and speaking from an Islamic perspective on fasting. Later, there will be a Sufi Islamic perspective as well on fasting. And then we'll go in turn again, as JC mentioned, the order of the speakers or presentations is in the chat. Just as a way of background, although I am the executive director of the Interfaith Conference, I am a member of the Muslim community in Milwaukee. I've presented on Islamic topics many times through the years. I've presented at the UWM School of Continuing Education as well on these topics. And uh, the issue of fasting is one that certainly comes up. Fasting itself is involved in the one of the basic faith practices of Islam. Now, is everybody seeing my screen sharing? You've had a couple nods, and I will know that I'm okay
Yeah.
on the screen. Thank you. And it's a matter of fact, the faith pillars of Islam, the major faith practices, fasting is one of those. Now, fasting during Islam, some of you have heard that it occurs during the obligatory or required fasting in Islam requires during the month of Ramadan. Well, that's a kind of strange word. It's not an English word. It's not of any of the 12 calendar months for the solar calendar. What is Ramadan? Well, Ramadan is the ninth month of the Islamic religious calendar. And the religious calendar in Islam is a lunar calendar. And lunar months last 29 or 30 days. Um, just like in the Jewish tradition, where the day begins at sunset or the new month begins at sunset, So a month in the Islamic religious calendar begins with the sighting of the new moon when it's visible after sunset for the first time. However, the Islamic lunar calendar does not insert an extra month every now and then to make it sync up with the solar calendar, but instead it is it moves up 10 or 11 days every year. What are the basic rules of fasting? I when putting this presentation together, I was like, should I put the purpose before the rules or the rules before the purpose? And I think most people who are not Muslim might find the rules more interesting than want to know, hey, what are we talking about? And then you could tell us about what the purpose of fasting is. So the basic rules of fasting, whether it's during Ramadan or otherwise for Muslims, is that there should be no eating, drinking, or sexual activities from break of dawn until sunset. And yes, that means not even water for drinking. It's not, no, uh, you can you can drink water, but everything else you can't drink. No, it's not even water. And this year, the Ramadan is going to come in on the evening of February 17, and it's going to go until the evening or sunset of March 19. Um, and how long are the longest? Well, when it comes in on February 17th, I can tell you the fast will last approximately 12 hours. We have to be finished with our early morning meal by 5:37 p.m. I'm sorry, 5:37 a.m. And on that day, it's actually 5:38 p.m. when we can break the fast. And over the course of a month, it will become approximately an hour longer. Another question that sometimes people ask, since the solar calendar is 365 days, but the lunar calendar is about 354 days, and therefore Ramadan moves up 11 days. What is the longest day during the calendar year in Milwaukee to fast, and what is the shortest day? Well, the shortest day, December 27th, the fasting would run from about 5:55 a.m. to 4:21 p.m. But in the middle of the summer, on the longest days in Milwaukee, it runs from about 3:30 in the morning to about 8:40 at night. And fasting is required for every Muslim that is an adult, is in sound mind, and is physically able. What is the age of religious obligation in Islam? It's when you reach puberty, although sometimes children are encouraged to try short fasts to learn gradually, like they may talk about, we'll fast from breakfast to lunch or something like that. Um, in addition to the basic rules, it's also necessary to have an intention to fast as well. And there are exemptions from these fasting requirements as well. Some exemptions are temporary and others are permanent. Usually the temporary ones have to be made up while the permanent ones are not. Some common exemptions are if you are sick or ill, if you're traveling, if they're mentally unfit, and that might be temporary or permanent. If you're physically unfit, that could be temporary or permanent. Menstruating women, pregnancy, and nursing as well also have their specific rules. But not eating and not drinking, it's not the only ac actions during Ramadan that are emphasized. One is to avoid sinful activities as well. And there's a saying that we'll get to from our prophetic tradition on that. There are also increased acts of worship. There are nightly prayers said at the mosque every night. It takes usually they recite approximately 1/30th of the Quran every night. So over the entire month, you can hear the entire Quran in worship. It takes approximately an hour and 45 minutes every night for that worship session. But during Ramadan, we are also encouraged to increase our charitable giving. A couple of other things. The early morning meal is highly recommended. Many of you have maybe attended the fast breaking meal, which is called the iftar as well. And the iftar becomes a time of social gathering in many communities and areas. And it gives Ramadan the aspect or the feeling of a holiday season, even though Ramadan might seem like it would be hard and the fasting would be hard. For many Muslims, they'll tell you it's the best time of the year. It's like Christmas for 30 days for Muslims, although it's a little hard during the day. Now, what are the purposes of Ramadan? Well, one verse in the Quran says, "O you who have faith, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may become righteous." That word righteous in Arabic is a word that maybe more closely equates with a translation of God consciousness. One of our prophetic sayings from our prophet is that whoever does not leave evil words and deeds while fasting, God does not need him to leave food and drink. So that tells you right there that the purpose of fasting is not about being hungry or thirsty. The purpose of fasting in Islam is to increase your righteousness or your God consciousness. And another saying of the prophet is, one might fast, but he gets nothing from his fast except hunger. One may pray at night, but he gets nothing from his prayer except fatigue. So again, the fasting in Islam is not about the outward aspect of it all, or even the physical practice of it. It has a spiritual practice. Another purpose during fasting is for expressing gratitude, because as Muslims believe that it was in the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed as a guidance. And God intends for us to fast during that period and to glorify him for that, and that we will be grateful. There are other purposes for fasting. In fact, there's a book that I've read that lists 60 purposes for fasting. We're not going to go through all of the spiritual and social benefits of fasting, but I've listed here another half a dozen prominent benefits that are often mentioned: promoting patience and self-restraint, self-spiritual purification and growth. And as a matter of fact, some people call Ramadan a month of spiritual training. The health benefits that some people tout, I guess that I mentioned a couple of those in the introduction, but also sympathy with those less fortunate and maybe being more grateful for what one has as well. And learning to obey God by restraining desire and teaching steadfastness. And there's an increased feeling of unity and collective identity among those fasting, the holiday spirit of Ramadan. Finally, Muslims hope that if they fast Ramadan in the correct spirit with hope for reward from God, that past sins will be forgiven. I'll conclude with this. There are also optional fasting days in Islam, and I have them listed here. The first 6 days of the month following Ramadan is sometimes called the perpetual fast, because the benefits are associated as if one had fasted for the entire year. There's fasting associated with the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, as well. The month of Muharram, particularly the 10th of the day of Muharram, was an original fasting day for Muslims. It was required at the start, but now it's only optional, but it commemorates the day when God freed the Jews from bondage in Egypt. And then there are a few other days, including their practices of monthly fasting, twice a week fasting, and even fasting every other day, which is known as the Fast of David, because Muslims believe that the Prophet David actually fasted on an every other day basis as well. And with that transition there to David, who is in the Jewish line in the Bible. I will conclude my presentation at this point and hand it over to Rabbi Stephen Adams. And let me get out of screen share here.
Well, thank you, Hamid. You and I have often talked about similarities in our traditions, and you saved me a lot of time in certain ways. I could say that the fasting in Judaism is very similar in terms of fasting involves not eating, drinking, or sexual activities, and adults aged 13 and up, only as able not to be harmful. So some of those are things that we share in terms of our understanding of fasting. So just once again, Rabbi Steve Adams representing the Jewish faith. Let me talk about fasting in Judaism. It's primarily an act of spiritual cleansing. It's used at times when we seek repentance, and the best known example would be Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I'll come back to that in a moment. But we're not told specifically in the Bible to fast. We're told to afflict our soul. And that's always been interpreted as fasting for the day. And the fasting is from sundown to sundown in this case. Repentance itself means changing and controlling one of the most basic urges that we have, and that's to eat. That shows that we can control and change our behavior. And if we can control that, we can control other habits and behaviors and do a true repentance of changing of our behavior. Fasting is also cleansing our bodies. It's symbolic of cleansing our souls. So spending a day where we cleanse our bodies of all food, all that we have, and then once again start again, that is what we're doing to our souls as well. Fasting is also, in Judaism, a response to tragedies or crises. Another fast, major fast, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, remembers the destruction of both temples, biblical temples, the expulsion from Spain in 1492, and interestingly enough, was the day that World War I began, which set the stage for the Holocaust and other things. And coincidentally, those all occurred on the 9th day of the month of Av in Judaism. So it's a fast day. So here are some of the fasts in Judaism. I'll run through them and explain a little bit about them. Yom Kippur, which occurs in the fall, that is the 10th day of the Jewish New Year, often again in September period of time. Day of fasting and praying from sundown to sundown. The other major fast in Judaism is, as I mentioned, the 9th day of Av. In Hebrew, it's Tisha B'Av, and that's the one that remembers all those tragedies throughout our history. But in addition to these two fasts, we have a number of minor fast days. These are from sunrise to sundown, which would probably be more similar to the month of Ramadan in Islam. And I just want to share some of these dates. There's one called the Fast of Gedalia. It's the 3rd day of the Hebrew year. It's the day after the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. Some people joke we eat so much for 2 days we need a day of fasting. But in reality, it's a fast that commemorates the murder of the Jewish governor of Judah, which many saw was the tipping point leading to the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem. There's the 10th day of the Hebrew month of Tevet in the middle of the winter, which marks the beginning of the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar's siege on Jerusalem, which was also a precursor to the destruction of the first temple. And then there is 3 weeks before the 9th day of Av, Tisha B'Av, is something called the 17th day of the month of Tammuz. It commemorates the day in which the Romans later breached the walls of the Second Temple. That was in the year 70 of the Common Era. The 4th minor fast is the Fast of Esther. It's the day before the observance of the holiday of Purim, based on the book of Esther. Many Jews fast as Esther fasted before she went to see King Ahasuerus to request that the decree against the death of the Jews would be lifted. So that's another of the minor fasts. What are some of the other times that somebody might fast? In some cases, couples, or certainly at least the groom in some traditions, would fast on their wedding day. There's a tradition of fasting on the day of one's wedding from sunrise until the ceremony is complete, so that the couple eat for the first time that day when they're together after they have a moment of seclusion after the ceremony is complete. Now, it's not a requirement, but it's become a custom and more certain communities of Jews follow that more than others. It's unfortunately sometimes you'll see a couple, one of the members of the couple faint during the wedding because they haven't eaten, and it's not the best situation, but many will do that in that case. Some say that the fast presents the newlyweds who may be tempted by all the booze at the pre-wedding banquets from arriving at their marriage ceremony, the canopy, intoxicated. Marriage is a serious obligation and should be undertaken in a fully sober state. Another reason for fasting, another fast in Judaism is called the first fast of the firstborn. And this is a fast that is right before Passover, the day before Passover, the evening of Passover. So it applies specifically to firstborn sons usually, and commemorates the 10th plague on Egypt, which took the life of all the firstborn Egyptians, while the firstborn Israelites whose homes were marked were spared. While we're grateful for our freedom, we're sad that innocent Egyptians had to suffer due to the leadership, how they responded. So that's another fast. An interesting fast day that is something that's become more known more recently in Judaism is the holiday of Sigd, which is an Ethiopian Jewish holiday. It's observed 50 days after Yom Kippur, and it is sunrise until mid-afternoon fast. The Ethiopian Jews had this tradition, and individual sins are forgiven by God on Yom Kippur, and there's 50 days of introspection following, and on that 50th day, they would fast for part of the day, and then there's a celebration. And because most Ethiopian community is concentrated in Israel, that's become a national observance in Israel itself. There's one more fasting that I'll mention, and that's that when we read the Torah scroll, the book that has handwritten scrolls that have the first 5 books of the Bible written on them, we take very good care of that scroll. But it's possible that the scroll could be dropped. And when a Torah scroll is dropped, it is custom in the community that there is 40 days of fasting. It's only daylight hours. We're not sure where it came from, but it's something that happened. The nice thing about that is that if there are 40 people present, each one can take a day, and the days need not be consecutive, but within a certain period of time. But we do say, it's something that we feel bad that's happened, and fasting is a way of responding to that. And so that's basically the experience of fasting in Judaism. And with that, I'll be happy to turn it over to Barry, and I'm going to say Ulan Hanki. Did I pronounce it right? Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I think we have Jerry Cho going
Jerry
next.
Cho
Jerry
next.
Cho, I'm sorry. I got the wrong order. Okay. Reverend Jerry, you're next.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Rabbi Adams. This reflection on fasting is more personal and official position.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
So let me present what I had prepared. When animals are sick, they instinctively stop eating. Dogs refuse food when they are unwell. Animals seem to know that fasting is a better option than eating when they are under stress. Fasting seems to activate the immune system, enhance the body's immunity, and awaken latent survival instincts. It is said that alligators can survive for a year without eating. There is a strong tradition of fasting in the Bible. King David fasted, Queen Esther fasted, and Jesus fasted for 40 days. John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist movement, fasted twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays from morning until 3 p.m. He practiced fasting as a spiritual discipline for prayer, self-examination, and humility. John Wesley believed that fasting was not merely a matter of personal devotion, but also involved sharing the money saved from fasting with the poor. Fasting can serve as a healthy discipline of self-control in a society saturated with overindulgence pathogens. As abuse of food, alcohol, tobacco, and drugs damages our bodies, minds, and communities, fasting can offer rest to both body and soul, becoming an opportunity for cleansing, purification, and healing. Fasting also breaks the routine of everyday life and allows us to see life from a fresh perspective. It opens our eyes to the fact that even without constant dependence on food, there exists within us an untapped reservoir of energy and inner strength. In fact, some physicians suggest that fasting or intermittent fasting can produce health benefits by allowing the body to eliminate unnecessary substances through a process known as autophagy. I had experienced a benefit of fasting many years ago. I once suffered from irritable bowel syndrome. Medication did not provide fundamental cure. However, after a 7-day water-only fast, I experienced complete recovery. A Korean pastor friend of mine has completed 40-day and night water fasts and 20-day and night fasts. And he is still alive in his mid-70s. I also know a few Korean pastors who died while attempting to fast for 40 days and nights, drinking only water. While there is no need to undertake extreme or prolonged fasting, which can be dangerous or even foolish, I believe 3-day water only or broth fast after consulting a physician is something many people can safely attempt. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jerry. And now I think it would be Barry's turn. Go ahead, Barry, and introduce yourself.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Barry Uhlenhake, and I'm the chairman of the local spiritual assembly of the Baha'i Faith in New Berlin. And as you're hearing tonight, fasting has long held a powerful role in religion. It serves as a spiritual discipline for purification, self-mastery, and drawing closer to God by temporarily denying physical appetites. It focuses on spiritual needs, repentance, empathy, and dependence on the divine. Fasting is common in many faiths that you'll be hearing tonight and some others as well. In Hinduism, it's called tapasya. Indigenous communities involve intense days of fasting. Judaism, as you're hearing, is in Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, and Christianity with Lent, and Islam with Ramadan. It provides for atonement, guidance, and spiritual growth as a physical expression of spiritual surrender, training the spirit to rely on God rather than the flesh. Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i Faith, taught progressive revelation, that there's only one religion, the religion of God, and that religion, like science, advances and evolves over time. From a Baha'i perspective, evolution and renewal of religion occurs with the coming of a new manifestation of God, sometimes called a divine educator or a messenger of God, about every 500 to 1,000 years. This process by which God continuously provides the guidance necessary for humanity's social and spiritual evolution is known as progressive revelation. Because of this, fasting continues to play an important role in Baha'i spiritual life, but in a slightly different form than in past religions. Baha'u'llah designates a 19-day period each year during which adult Baha'is fast by abstaining from all food and drink from sunrise to sunset each day from the 2nd to the 20th of March, which immediately precedes the Baha'i New Year on the first day of spring. It's a time of prayer, meditation, and spiritual rejuvenation, a time when I personally reflect on my spiritual progress and set new goals and resolutions for the coming year. A number of special prayers have been revealed specifically for the period of the fast. One, for example, begins with these words, I quote, "This is, O my God, the first of the days in which thou hast bidden thy loved ones to observe the fast. I ask of thee by thyself and by him who hath fasted out of love for thee and for thy good pleasure, and not out of self and desire, nor out of fear of thy wrath, and by thy most excellent names and august attributes, to purify thy servants from the love of aught except thee, and to draw them nigh unto the dawning place of the lights of thy countenance and the seat of the throne of thy oneness. Illumine their hearts, O my God, with the light of thy knowledge, and brighten their faces with the rays of the day star that shineth from the horizon of thy will." Unquote. However, it's important to note that Baha'i fasting is not to be viewed as a practice of asceticism or as a means of penance. Those Baha'is who are traveling, suffer from illness, under 15 and over 70 years of age, are pregnant, nursing, or menstruating, or work at jobs that entail heavy labor, they're all exempt. Abdu'l-Baha, son of Baha'u'llah, said that, quote, "Fasting is the cause of awakening man. The heart becomes tender and the spirituality of man increases. This is produced by the fact that man's thoughts will be confined to the commemoration of God. And through this awakening and stimulation, surely ideal advancements follows." Unquote. So fasting is meant to be a refreshing time of material and mental cleansing. To support that, the Baha'i faith, which provides us with a rich source of prayers for all occasions, left us this fasting one. Quote, "O God, as I'm fasting from the appetites of the body and not occupied with eating and drinking, even so purify and make holy my heart and my life from aught else save thy love, and protect and preserve my soul from self and passions. Thus may the Spirit associate with the fragrances of holiness and fast from everything else save thy mention." Thank you. Now we'll turn it over to Glenn Algar. Glenn, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Shortly after the official founding of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1830, members practiced fasting occasionally, usually in response to specific needs such as drought, illness, or major decisions. In 1896, church leaders established the practice of a monthly fast to be held on the first Thursday of each month. The fast was to be for a period of approximately 24 hours, during which adult members would go without food or drink. The amount saved was then contributed and designated as a fast offering, intended to support the poor and the needy. Typically, this fast would start at the conclusion of the evening meal on one day and end with the evening meal the following day. Young children were not expected to fast, nor were those with health problems or pregnant women. In 1940, this was shifted to the first Sunday of each month. In addition, rather than the traditional sermon, members are invited to spontaneously, in an orderly manner, express their feelings about God and Jesus Christ. This day is now designated as Fast Sunday. For members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as we've heard from other faiths, going hungry and making a financial contribution to the poor is only the first component of a meaningful fast. Of equal importance is the spiritual component. Members are encouraged to not only go without food, but to also take advantage of this sacrifice by fasting with a purpose, thus gaining a spiritual benefit as well. Otherwise, we're just going hungry. Such purposes could cover any area in which we need God's help, including things such as wisdom in dealing with a rebellious child, building a better relationship with our spouse, seeking a companion for marriage, seeking employment, health challenges, having peace with difficult topics, or anything that would be relevant to our daily life. Our exemplar, Jesus Christ, prepared himself for his ministry by spending 30 days in fasting and prayer. Later, after unsuccessful efforts by his apostles to cast out an evil spirit, Christ taught them, "This kind can come forth by nothing but prayer and fasting." So this evening, I'd like to share two of my many wonderful experiences with prayer and fasting. It was the spring of 1971. The country was just coming out of a recession. I was just completing graduate school, and only 2 companies had visited our campus that had possibilities of employment for me. I had sent my resume to a number of possible employers with no positive response. We had 4 young children. Fortunately, as a result of my part-time job, I'd been invited to write the job description for a position at a newly opened medical school at the University of Arizona. The job had now been advertised, and I made an appointment with the individual who would make the hiring decision. I fasted the day prior to the appointment, went to a nearby park that evening, and poured my heart out to God, praying for his help. As I prayed, I had the comforting feeling come into my mind, "Don't worry, I will be with you. The outcome will be in harmony with my will." During the interview, the hiring individual showed me the job description. It was the one I had prepared and perfectly matched my skills. I asked what the timing was for making his decision. He replied that he would not decide until fall. Although his response could have been disheartening, I left the meeting completely in peace as I returned home to share the news with my wife. 2 weeks later, completely out of the blue, I received a phone call from one of the 2 companies who had visited our campus with an invitation to come visit. 2 weeks later, just a month before graduation, I had a job offer. In talking to my new boss later, he told me that he had gone to the personnel office, gone through a complete file drawer of applications, and picked mine plus 1 other. He then called me first. A confirmation that God had honored my fasting and prayers. Many years later, in the spring of 1984, I'd been somewhat successful in my work and was managing a group of 35 research engineers. A new individual came in at the top of the organization and decided to do a major reorg, which resulted in my being demoted to supervising a group of 5 engineers. Discouraged by the outcome, I again chose to fast and pray, this time asking the Lord what I had done to deserve this and what I needed to change in my life. This time there was no response, no answer, no feeling of peace. Then, as I continued to ponder my situation, the Lord randomly made me aware of 3 individuals in leadership positions of my faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who had similar experiences. Joseph Smith, the prophet who founded the church in 1830, had been jailed for 6 months under false charges. Hugh B. Brown, an apostle in our faith, in his earlier career, he had served in the Canadian Army. He was next in line for promotion to general, but was passed over because he was a Mormon. Phil Peterson served in a lay leadership position in our church, equivalent to that of a Catholic bishop over a diocese. His regular employment was that as assistant superintendent of the San Diego School District, comprising 115,000 students. A new superintendent was hired. He chose to reorganize the administration, resulting in the demotion of Phil Peterson to the position of high school principal. Was it a coincidence that I became aware of these 3 situations all within a week of my fasting and prayer? I think not. We believe there are no coincidences in the work of the Lord. In fact, God honored my fasting and prayer by making me aware of 3 other highly respected and Christ-like individuals who had also suffered significant reverses. due to no fault of their own. God taught me that living a good life does not protect one from adversity. It was an important teaching moment for me. I'm grateful for the principle of fasting and prayer together that enable me to more effectively draw upon the power of God in my life. And with that, I'll pass it on to Fariba.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fariba Farbash, and I'm a student of MTO Shah Maksudi School of Islamic Sufism. In Sufism, we fast the holy month of Ramadan. We also fast 3 days of each month remaining in the year. For those of you that may not know what Sufism is about, Sufism is a path to self-knowledge. This meaning is expressed beautifully in well-known verse that is attributed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In prophetic, it's a hadith of Nabawi, or prophetic saying. It says, Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbahu. He who knows himself knows his Lord. Sufi Master Professor Nader Anga, in his lectures, he explained the practice of fasting in holy month of Ramadan, and I'd like to share with you my understanding of the teaching. The purpose of fasting, or the goal of fasting for the individual during the holy month of Ramadan is to discover, one wants to discover his or her qadr. The word qadr or qadr, it means inner reality. It means divine truth. Everything in the universe has this qadr within them. This is a hidden essence, a unique purpose that is placed within them by God. Human being also carries this God within them. Now, in order for the individual to proceed with this goal, one must emsak. The word emsak means to abstain, to refrain, to limit. And, it is, some people associate the word emsak right away to refraining from eating or drinking, from before the sunrise to sunset, or dawn to sunset. However, in Sufism, this goes beyond the physical. It is an inner discipline. And some of the example is like keeping our mind from constant judgment, keeping our heart from being affected by negative emotions or thoughts like anger, resentment, fears, worries, envy. Keeping our tongue from saying harsh words or something that is not useful. It is about controlling the daily distraction. Anything that affects our inner balance and presence. Imsak also is about breaking our habits. And this covers a lot of different aspects of the individual. The simple example that it relates to me and I want to share with you is that skipping that morning coffee during the month of Ramadan is very hard for me. It's very challenging. It takes me a few days to get used to it. But once I do that, when I go through the process, not only I see my limitation, but also I learn about my capabilities. I learned that this is a habit that I made for myself, and I'm able to break it. Now, fasting is not about withdrawing from the world. Life goes on. On the contrary, whatever is your responsibility during the month of Ramadan fasting, what is your responsibility during the daily life? You need to do that, in month of Ramadan as well. It's not like you can ignore it. You have to go to school, you have to go to work, you have to, take care of the children, making meals. Whatever you normally do, you have to do in month of Ramadan. However, the key is to do everything with this intention to keep our focus on our goal and ourselves. Now, the concept of qadr or qadr it 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 is deeply related to chapter 97 of Holy Quran, Suratul Qadr. It speaks about Laylatul Qadr, which is the night of power or night of destiny. It is, we believe, the Muslims believe that on that night or nights, Holy Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Believers across the world, they pray that night. Some stay, reciting Quran, staying up all night, hoping for this, making this connection with the beloved God. I like to share just the first verse of this chapter with you, which is relating to our conversation today. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr. Wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. Indeed, we revealed it on the night of power. And what can make you know what night of power is? Simply put, God is explaining that He revealed His divine decree on the night of power, on the night of Qadr. And He's letting us know that human being cannot understand it, cannot comprehend the meaning of it using his mind and intellect. This divine truth that human being also carried must be realized and received from within. Now, at the end of holy month of Ramadan, we celebrate the festival of Fitr. Fitr means expansion. It means opening of the bindings. We celebrate it by sharing, our blessings with less fortunate in our community, doing charity works. I want to refer to that 3 days, the 3 extra days per month that we are encouraged in Sufism to fast. That works kind of like a reminder, a reset, if you will, remembering our goal. The path of self-knowledge is an ongoing journey. The more we know about ourselves, the closer we get to this doorway to the divine knowledge. Thank you. And now I want to pass it to Father Gideon, please.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am Gideon, and I'm a Catholic priest serving on the south side of Milwaukee. And thank you. I mean, a lot has been shared, really, a lot of similarities. Within the Catholic tradition, I'll say fasting is one of the pillars of Lent, connected to prayer and almsgiving. And in terms of who should fast, so in the Catholic Church, it's pretty much adults who are physically healthy, they're expected to fast. And I'll say the most popular time for fasting normally is during the season of Lent, whereby Ash Wednesday, the faithful are invited to observe the fast, and then Fridays during Lent as well. That's highly encouraged. Good Friday too is expected for the faithful to observe fast. And in terms of the fasting itself, I mean, it can be full fast or it can be partial fast. So I'll say for Ash Wednesday and for Good Fridays, the expectation normally is maybe you have one substantial meal and then 2 snacks. I'll see that's kind of mostly, at least I'll say here in the US. I'm originally from Kenya. So in Kenya, I'm from the coastal part of Kenya. So we have a huge, the majority actually there of Muslim faith. So even with the Catholics there, when they observe fasting, it's pretty much a full fast. So you don't eat anything for the whole day. That's part of part of the tradition. Personally, I'll say, and definitely fast is not limited just to Lent. Uh, the faithfuls they're invited to fast, when you want again to discipline yourself, when there's something that you're discerning about in your own life, you can fast. When there's a situation going on as well, be it in the world, in the country, faithfuls as well, they are pretty much invited to fast, based uh, on where they find themselves. So it's not just limited to the season of the liturgical season of Lent. Fasting too, I'll say within the Catholic tradition, definitely it's not limited to food, you know. You can fast from certain attitudes. If the attitudes they don't help to again to build that sense of charity, then probably we can fast from that. Fast as well extends to from the screen time, from entertainment. You can definitely deny yourself as part of fasting. One thing that I know since I was ordained as a priest, one question that I normally get right at the beginning of Lent from the families that I'm serving is, Father, what are you giving up for this Lent? And for me, I'll say the biggest kind of a thing to give up has been ice cream and peanuts, because I'm kind of addicted to that. So each year that has been kind of one of the battles. You kind of give it up and then it comes back with sometimes with a sense of vengeance, after Lent. But yeah, I've been giving up ice cream. I've been giving up some of my screen time. Uh, I have been giving up trying to give up, being judgmental. So I've tried that, to fast by giving up in different ways. But the big question I'll say that within our tradition too, that we ask ourselves is, does it really matter if I give up my ice cream? Does it really matter if I give up my cup of coffee, the morning cup of coffee? Does it matter to God really? Does he care if I do that? And the answer to that question really, I'll say, is guided by one of the discussions that that Jesus had with the Pharisees on answering the question why his disciples do not fast. I think by answering that question, Jesus reshapes our practice of fasting, so that really it's a sign of our incompleteness, It's a sign of our longing for the fullness of God's kingdom and the presence of our Messiah in our lives. So within the Catholic tradition, I'll say fasting of any kind becomes a sacred reminder that only God can fulfill our deepest desires. The ice cream, yeah, it doesn't, it normally does make me happy for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes. The cup of coffee does give me some energy, but ultimately, when I fast, I'm reminded about the reality that only God can fulfill my deepest desire. Fasting and penance as well for us Catholics does remind us that we are just passing through this world. So we cannot afford to cling to anything except to the Lord. We cannot cling to material possessions. We cannot cling to stuff, to things, because again, we are just passing on this world. And as well for us Catholics, fasting is again a way to forge solidarity with our brothers and sisters, especially those who are struggling in different ways. You know, when I fast, I'm reminded about what it means, you know, to have nothing. But at the same time, too, hopefully, my heart will be moved so that I can reach out to those in need. And finally, within our tradition, again, as a church, Catholic Church, we fast as well as a sign of penance. And that's one thing I know last year with our new Archbishop, he did invite the faithful within the Archdiocese of Milwaukee to consider fasting during Lent, again, as an act of penance for our failures as a church. So that was expressed as well through fasting. So I'll say, yeah, those are some of the elements of our Catholic tradition in regard to fasting.
Thank you, Father Gideon, for your presentation. And at this time, we have a few minutes left. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour in our usual 1 hour time limit. There was one question asked in the chat by Glenn. I think that's been answered, but I would ask the panel maybe to briefly comment, because I think people who haven't fasted before, they might think, oh, is it hard? What do you do to prepare to fast? And so maybe if everybody could just go around and offer 30 seconds on what their feeling is about the difficulty of fasting and what they might do to prepare to fast. And I'll go first. I find that it's an individual thing. It is hard, very hard for some people, and for other people, it's not so hard. Personally, because of the length of Ramadan, I try to make sure that I'm not going into the month dehydrated. I try to make sure that I'm drinking plenty of water and preparation. And because I drink coffee, I cut back on coffee so I don't get caffeine headaches in advance. Maybe we should just go down the order of presentation. Steve, what are your feelings about when you're getting ready to fast? Any particular issues?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. You mentioned the caffeine headache is a very common one. I have mostly decaffeinated myself in the last couple of years. So it's less of an issue and it's made fasting a little bit easy. But I will mention the other side of it is I'm diabetic and I have own certain limits. So I cut back as much as possible, but can't do a full fast. But for many, many years, I did fast completely, sundown to sundown. And being busy with the prayer, having something to focus on, made the fast much easier. And I would lead services while fasting. And people, were a little bit concerned about that, but after a couple of years, it's something one gets used to. I can't imagine fasting every day as you do, for a period of time. That's a different experience.
Jerry, if you're available, you could comment on when you're getting ready to do one of your water fasts. But if you've left, I know Jerry was remote in San Diego. We can go to you next, Barry.
Okay. If you're physically healthy, and of course, we're not trying to make this a terrible burden to people, but it's an opportunity, as we said, to spiritually rejuvenate. So, as the rabbi was talking about, if you really focus on how you can spiritually grow, set goals and objectives that you might want to pursue, that sense of purpose helps go through the fasting period, makes it much easier. Also, I found that when you start fasting, the hardest part is just the beginning, the first day or so. And then you get into a routine, you get into acceptance, the body adapts. And it actually, by the end of the fast period, you're kind of on a roll. I have found that it's not nearly as oppressive as you might have imagined. My 30 seconds are up.
Glenn, what do you think when you're getting ready maybe for your regular first Sunday or fast Sunday fast?
Well,
What do you find yourself doing anything to prepare?
well, first I have to comment that as part of our faith tradition, we don't drink coffee, so that's not an issue for us. Um, I would also say that when you have that habit once a month, it becomes much easier. But finally, I would echo Barry's comments. When you have a purpose in fasting other than going hungry or contributing to those who are needy, that changes your focus from your physical appetite to whatever the purpose is that you're praying for.
Thank you, Glenn. And Fariba, I think actually you commented that you find coffee a little difficult, but
You know what I notice is that um well, if you eat a good meal, which when I fast a lot of time, I think I like to sleep even 5 minutes more, so I skip the food, which is really bad. So it's better to get up, before down and have a meal. Maybe not too big, so that it can covers you. But everybody, that's whatever it was said so far, it's just so similar. Um, the thing is, there are some people that maybe they're not feeling good, they are sick, and they cannot fast. So is again fasting, that's true, that is not eating and not drinking, but the main thing, the main focus is the prayers, you know, because it's a month of prayers, reading your holy book and just reflection, prayers, reflection. So there are some people that maybe they cannot fast because of their health, or all the list that like Ahmad mentioned and other people mentioned. But the main thing is the time of reflection, time of prayers, time to focus. And when we have that intention that I mentioned before, it makes it a little bit easier.
Reba, you somehow muted yourself.
Oh,
just at the very end you muted.
yes.
So, all right, Father Gideon,
Yeah,
is there any comment? I know when you said you lived in Kenya, and I think you were doing some more serious fasting. Is there anything that you do as part of your preparation when you're doing that?
yeah, I'll say it's really for me it starts with kind of the internal prep, just putting my heart and my mind in the right place. And on the side of the externals, I kind of do what I think I'm able to without necessarily competing with anybody, or it's very unique for, I'll say, for each person. Mhm. But for me, the internal disposition is much more, I'll say it's very important, at least to me. Mhm.
And I see that there's been a question. Thank you, Father Gideon. I see there's a question in the chat. Curious how people who live in regions that experience the midnight sun handle the fast, since Ramadan moves around in relation to the solar calendar. Yes, it's true. If you get north of the Arctic Circle, depending on what year what time of year it is. There can be either perpetual sun or perpetual darkness. The scholars usually give you one of three options. They say that you should either fast according to the largest metropolitan area south of the Arctic Circle that has fasting, or that you can fast according to the schedule of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. The fasting says schedule they follow. Certainly, if you're traveling north of the Arctic Circle, then you're exempt from fasting. But a third option is that if you're from an area of the world, if your home is like if I suddenly moved up to the exceedingly north area of Alaska, then another option might be my hometown would still be Milwaukee, and you could fast according to that schedule as well. I do know that there are Islamic communities that live up in Alaska as well, and they usually adopt one of those three options. With that, we are at the end of our hour, and I would like to thank all of our presenters today for sharing their time and their experience of their faith's particular traditions regarding fasting. I found it very interesting to see because I think somebody who thinks of fasting, they may think, oh, this is all about being hard on the body. And actually, we all talk about the benefits of fasting, the spiritual aspect as well. And so I think all of our speakers conveyed that in their faith traditions as well as other benefits that they feel. I would again welcome all of you to look for our future programming that we will do. Next month, we will be doing our 5 Tuesdays in March. It's a luncheon program, but if lunches doesn't work out for you, and for the Muslims, it's not going to work for the first 3 Tuesdays, you can always sign up to get the link for those programs. There's an option to stream those programs. The program is on faith and civic life, raising our moral voice. And we've got 5 speakers from 5 different faith traditions for those 5 weekly programs as well. And finally, again, just a reminder, the Interfaith Conference of Greater Milwaukee appreciates your donations and support. And even if financial donation and support is not available, we appreciate your attendance at these programs as well. And so, with a special wish to all of our faith traditions, whether it's to the Muslims for the upcoming Ramadan, or for the Christians for the upcoming season of Lent, or the other holidays that are going to be coming up in the spring, the Jewish Passover, and as well, we wish everybody blessed and safe holiday and fasting season, if that's what you're going to be doing as well. And we will conclude our program here, ending our recording. Thank you.